I'm John Jorgensen, and this is the Go With John Show. You may recall that Frank from Evolution Broadband was a guest on our show not too long ago, and shortly after his appearance, his son Joey wanted to come on the show and talk to me about his struggle with depression. It's a little bit off the beaten path of topics that we cover, but there is some tie-in to our show. Technology today, and in particular social media, has become the center of our existence, especially for the youngsters out there. It can affect how much time you spend with your family. It can be a distraction at work. And for some of us, like my guest today, it can take us down a darker path than we'd prefer to go. Joining me today is Joey Stidman, along with his mom and dad, to talk about how technology, social media, and negativity affects us all as a result of not unplugging. All right, so I'm here today with Joey Stidman. Joey, you're 17 years old.
I am.
And we're here today with your mom and dad. We have Lynn Stidman and Frank Stidman in the room with us, and we're going to chat a little bit about you and your story. And before we get into that, let me tell the folks how we got here. And I think Frank and I were standing around at the back of our pickup trucks out in front of a job site, and I was sharing with Frank stories about how frustrated I was with the way technology had negatively impacted like my company culture, and it was really frustrating to me. And then Frank started talking about your story. Eventually your dad, Frank, came on to the podcast with me, and we did a great episode, which is getting a lot of downloads and a lot of traction. People really like it. And Frank said, hey, you know what? My son Joey would love to come on and share his story with the folks. And I said, great, let's do it. So that's kind of how we got here. It's wonderful to have you guys here. And thank you for coming. And Joey, welcome.
Hello. I almost said welcome again.
There you go.
Thank you.
It's all good. Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. So Joey, tell us a little bit about some of your hobbies. So you're into photography, and tell us, how did you get into photography?
With my old friends, I used to be the designated photographer, which at first I was annoyed about because I wasn't the one in the photos. Uh-huh. But then I found out that I actually kind of liked taking the photos, and then I bought a nicer phone with a better camera, and then I took a photography class sophomore year, and I excelled really well in that, and then I actually won a few awards too, and it was one of my best hobbies in sophomore year. It was great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love taking pictures as well. And you have some great photography on your website. It's really amazing. So you also play guitar. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about that. So what made you get into guitar? What inspired you to pick up a guitar to begin? My father. Your father? He pushed that on me for like 3 years, and I didn't touch my electric guitar. And then one day I was like, I want to learn acoustic guitar. And naturally, he had already bought me like a $150 Washburn, so I didn't touch that thing because I outgrew it really fast. Right. But I eventually learned guitar, and I started taking lessons, and with my instructor, Vinny, who is a great influence on me, who I'll probably talk about later. Right. And then I played that for years, learned some classic rock, modern rock, some random songs. Right. It was one of my favorite hobbies at the time. Yeah. Are you still playing a lot of music now? I wouldn't say a lot, but I still have weekly guitar lessons with my instructor. Nice. I'm still learning stuff right now. I'm learning Ride the Lightning, Metallica right now. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's some serious music right there. It's difficult. I'm not going to learn that solo within like a year because I'm not practicing every day like I used to. But yeah. So folks out there think that you can just, like, some people are gifted and you can just pick up a guitar and play it, right? And it's just, does that ever happen, do you think? Absolutely, that does happen. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say you can pick it up and you know everything, but there's some people just have a knack for it. Right. I wouldn't say anybody can just pick it up, but other people learn really fast at that. Right. I'm not one of them. I bought my first guitar in 1995. I still have it, and I literally could not play it till about 2 or 3 years ago. So you guys can do the math. That's a little while. I'm a slow learner. It's hard.
Very hard.
Yeah, it is. It's brutal. So tell us your story. So you had some challenges. So you're 17 years old. You're a really young guy. You got your whole life ahead of you, and you've had some real difficulties. And part of it ties into technology and social media. And really, we want to come here today and celebrate you and celebrate how you overcame your challenges. But tell us kind of what happened in your life and what got you into, let's just call it, a dark place in life.
Well, elementary school, I was perfectly fine. Like I don't think anybody's mental illness develops in elementary school. I haven't seen that before.
Right.
Although I have seen psychopathic 6-year-olds, but that's a different story.
Sure.
Let's see. Elementary school, I was fine. Middle school was really rough for me. I have a condition with my back where if anybody touches my upper back, it feels like I'm on fire, and I've been dealing with that since 7th grade. I've been to 10 doctors. I have 3 different diagnoses.
Right.
Would
kids like on purpose touch your back? Or?
Yes,
yeah.
actually.
So how did the back condition tie in? Tell us how that.
So I was I'm not gonna lie, I was an attention seeker in 7th and 8th grade. I was very.
That's never
very
happened
annoying.
With any 7th or 8th grader. Most of them.
Oh
don't
yeah,
want
no.
any
Most
attention.
of them are very compliant. Most of them are very competent. Well, let's just say it was extra bad for me.
Yeah.
And I would start, for some reason, I found attention in that, and that was a huge mistake because people would purposely slap me on the back. And
Right.
the condition was real. I just was broadcasting that for some reason. I don't understand myself. I would not be friends with my 7th grade year old self.
Right.
But
most of us probably would.
yeah, if you would be, there's something wrong there.
Right. Yeah.
But it was, a lot of people harassed me for that.
Right.
Like I said, hit me in the back purposely. That hurt a lot, and just kind of emotional pain. I think that's when it started.
Right.
But,
So what started? When you say it started?
just general depression. I
Okay.
wasn't feeling good, and I was trying to. At first, I threw myself into school, and I would stress over an A-, which my parents literally didn't care. They were like, as long as you get B's or up, you're fine.
Right.
Which is kind of ironic because all the other kids their parents would stress A's or A-, and then they would not care.
Right.
So it's kind of reverse psychology there, if that makes sense.
Right. Sure.
I mean,
sure.
I don't know if that was the intention, but
Right.
probably not. But
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah. I'm sure not. I can see Lynn is shaking her head no. So.
No, I mean, we just wanted him to do his best.
Right.
In school.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And be happy.
And be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the one I failed at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're there now, so.
Yeah, I'm
that's
happy
good.
now, and that's what I'm glad.
So what happened?
What happened? Middle school sucked, but then it was really in freshman year that things got rough. One of my best friends, he said some messed up stuff to me. I wouldn't say he tried to get me to kill myself, but he offered me sleeping pills.
That's horrible.
Yeah, he asked me, how would you kill yourself? And I said sleeping pills, and then he offered to get me some.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And that hurt me a lot because
Sure.
he's supposed to be my best friend, and then suddenly, hey, I'll assist you in suicide.
Right.
That one hurt a lot.
Right.
My friends weren't. Some of them were very supportive. Some of them weren't.
Yeah.
And I just threw myself into the whole social crowd, and then that was when, around winter and freshman year, I'd say like around January, that's when I started heavily drinking.
Right. And what year was that?
That was 2019.
Okay.
Or 2020 probably. Early 2020.
Yeah.
Because
2019.
Well, because I started maybe
You
in
went into
December.
the hospital the first time, I want to say in October of 2019.
Yes, I missed Halloween.
Yeah.
So October of 2019 to about June of 2020 in my mind is the chunk of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the bad. Those were the bad times. Where
And
I
that's
was
like
drinking.
literally right before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in COVID. So
Yeah.
he went into a group home for 2 months. A week into it, they locked it down and we couldn't really come visit him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
rough, but COVID kind of saved me academically, and I
Right.
think a lot of kids can agree with that.
Right.
Anyone who, especially juniors that year, because junior year is the hardest, and a lot of people got to take their finals online, I believe.
Right. So how did you get there? I mean, how did you get to the point where you started drinking? Like, was there a driver? Was there?
I was the driver, if anything. I felt
Yeah.
bad because I was an awful influence on my friends. I was the one who was supplying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better now that I got cut off from them because, if anything, I was the bad influence on them in that way.
Right.
But no, I was the driver. I mean, the driver was the fact that there was a liquor shelf 3 feet away from me in the basement.
Right.
And that just made things easier.
Right. Yep. And I think we've all grown up with that. I mean, I think I grew up in that same scenario where, it was there, and I think everybody probably approaches it a little differently, But so what do you want people to learn? So one of the things you told me is you want to tell your story and you want to try to help other people. So how would you help somebody else? I mean, what would you from your perspective, what would you say to somebody who's struggling with depression? Because it's almost more than depression. It's almost you've got depression, you've got social bullying on social media, right? You've got, which we didn't really talk about that yet, but you've got physical bullying, and you've got your typical I think scenario where you have 7th and 8th graders who are just at that stage in life where it's just kind of difficult to begin with, right? And then you start throwing these other things in. But so what would you say to folks to try to help them, or to try to make them aware that maybe something is bigger happening here than just general prototypical adolescence?
Well, to help other people, I would say, especially for teenagers, because this is difficult for them, try your best not to be negative. A lot of people like to talk crap about other people, and that makes you feel better, I guess, in the short term, but that's never a good thing. That just makes other people feel bad, and then you feel bad, or just overall being negative about everything. That's how you easily fall into depression. I mean, if you're negative about everything, what are you happy about? You're not happy about anything. And so trying to be as positive as possible and the least negative. I mean, try to assume the best in other people, or always assume positive intentions. Like, I'm trying to think of a situation where that would come into play, but I'm not sure.
Well, I can tell you in business classes, when I go to business classes or I go to seminars, they'll tell you, write down the names of all the people that you spend the most time with, right? It's usually 5 or 6 or 7 people because you don't have a lot. And then they'll say, are these people generally positive or negative? And then is there anybody in your sphere that's really negative? And then they'll say you've got to get away from them, right? Because negativity begets negativity, right? When you get into that negative, tearing down kind of mentality, it tears you down and everybody else. And when you get into that positive space where you're trying to build everybody up around you, then that just perpetuates itself, as well. So I think that's what you're saying is try to get the negativity out of your life and focus on the positive, both
absolutely
on your own and with the people that you spend time with. Because you've already made the comment. I'm not sure if you made this comment before we started rolling mics about that you've cut off contact with a lot of these negative folks that were a negative influence on you.
Actually, if anything, it was the other way around. They cut off contact with me, but if anything, that was better for everybody involved.
Right.
So I'm glad now, but that hurt a lot at the time being.
Right. Sometimes it's just bad chemistry, Yeah.
Well, it started off great. I mean, they were very supportive, and they were the reason I'm still here.
Right.
And they're also the reason why I almost wasn't here.
Right. Amazing how that works, isn't it?
We think that with him and what we coached him for is to get away from wanting to be a part of a group. We think that there's dynamics that exist in a group that can get out of control and get crazy. And even if like that group we used to love, it seemed like a very good thing at first, and then at some point somebody's going to inject something negative and evil into it, and then that takes off like a virus. What we've coached him to do is have a few friends, but very good ones.
Right.
And he's much healthier for it.
Right.
As best as we can see.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way life works, and that's the way it is with my life, Frank, and I'm sure yours too. And Lynn, you end up with it's funny, when I was in high school, over and over and over and over, teachers would say, when you're 35 years old, you're going to be able to count the friends you have on one hand. And I think we all sat there in school and said, no, it's not going to happen to me. But the reality is that's just the way life works.
Yeah.
And if you accept it and work with it, I think we're all better off. So how did technology and social media, so now you're 17 years old, so you've grown up with a phone in your hand.
Absolutely. Yeah, since I was 12, I think.
Yeah, so you were born in what year?
2004.
Good. So
January
we got
1st.
that. So
I mean,
we knew
I
that
get,
one right away. There was no
there's kind of a
confusion there.
stigma among my grade against 2004 kids.
Yeah.
Even though I was born January 1st, so I count myself with the 2004
So why is there a
kids.
stigma against 2004 kids?
We're pretty stupid.
No, come on.
Not gonna lie. Some of the younger generation, or
Right.
the younger side, like the ones born in like September. There's,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a stigma, but it's just kind of a joke.
Yeah, there's always some sort of a joke flying around.
Exactly.
So you know, and that's the thing for me. And I'll just tell like a quick story. So before it's really only been about the last 10 years, right? So we're in 2020 now. So around 2010, and you were born in 04. But it used to be, you know, I started my first business 35 years ago. And when we came to work, and Lynn and Frank, you will remember this, maybe not you, Frank, because you've kind of been self-employed your whole life. But when we went to work, we had a policy at our company where you were not allowed to have personal phone calls. Like it was you would come to the office and you would clock in the morning and you were trapped in this building or office, or you were trapped with this team of people all day, and there were no outside influences coming into your organization. And I never realized how amazing it was at the time when I look back at it. And if somebody got a personal phone call, it was a big deal. And you could if you got too many personal phone calls during the week, you could get fired, you know, or we would have to let somebody go because they were disrupting the workflow of the day. And now with the folks that have been coming into the workplace in the last, 7 or 8 years, who grew up with that phone in their hand, they can't seem to come to the office. Like that whole experience is gone. With the internet, with the news coming in, like everybody's plugged in, everybody's sharing emails all day, and you're working on the internet, you can't get off it. If there's some kind of a catastrophe, everybody knows right away that there's been a plane crash or there's been, some world event, and there's this constant distractions in the workplace. And I don't think it's really a good thing, and I fight it. And everybody who works with me really understands how I'm trying to hold on to the past. And now I'm just one of these old guys that, I don't get it, right? But I do get it.
Right.
But how did technology? Because you just don't know what it was, right?
Right.
But how did technology play a role or impact your situation?
My situation. Having contact with everyone 24/7 and being expected to reply. I mean, I think it's ridiculous for people to get mad at you for ignoring them on the phone. You bought that phone. You have the right to answer whenever.
Right.
I mean, it used to be that you couldn't contact anyone 24/7, whereas now I can get a hateful text any second, and that does happen still.
Right. Still today?
I wouldn't say till today, but I've got, over the past few months, I've gotten a few just long paragraphs of text that I've just ignored that I didn't even read them, but I know that they were against me.
Right.
But just being able to, anyone can say anything to you at any time, it's ridiculous, especially with social media. I can block someone on text. I can block them on Instagram. I can block them on Snapchat, but they can create a new account. They can always contact me.
Right.
And
well, so what is cyberbullying? Right? Because I think everybody experienced some sort of bullying. Did you, Lynn, experience any bullying? Maybe not the ladies, but Frank, did you?
Oh yeah, plenty. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I just think that even if you weren't really bullied, I think everybody has felt like they were bullied, even if it was unintentional, right? From my perspective, I mean, it's but if you're, what is cyberbullying? Like, I understand there are people that are saying horrible things, right, to you directly, but are they also posting things on Facebook about you, or is it mostly just like directed directly at you privately, one-on-one?
What's interesting is actually, I think that we've gotten cyberbullying that's public under control, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it's mostly direct messaging that tends to be bad. And like I said, it's 24/7 contact with anyone in the world. That's bad. But the cyberbullying that's public, what ends up happening, at least in my area, is everyone just starts commenting hate on the person who was cyberbullying. Right. And then they suddenly get just completely canceled, and everyone hates on them for hating on other people. And it's amazing. You'll see a hateful post and then thousands of comments just saying, take this down. Right. It's amazing.
I mean, that's great. I think our society has evolved, right, to the point where we understand.
At least here. It could be completely different in like Maryland or something.
One of the real dangers that slipped past us, and we still struggle with this, is you were up until 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes texting and dealing with things. And so he's dead tired. And, that's one of those ingredients for making depression even worse.
Oh, yeah.
And not thinking clearly. And so one of the mistakes we made as parents is not demanding and requiring that phone be put on in our room
Right.
by 8, 9 o'clock, whatever your standard is, and taking it away, because
Right.
it is such a powerful thing for them to want to look. They can barely sleep. The anxiety is, oh my God, somebody might have texted
Right.
me and I need to respond, or somebody said this about me and I need to defend myself. And
And
those
it's
are
addicting.
and it's
It's the
addicting.
defend-
They just
yeah.
can't resist it.
Right.
Most
It
of
is.
us can't.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree. We all.
I mean, it's a sickness that's really building in, and
Yeah.
so to his point, the posting on a major social media site and crapping on somebody, you're probably going to get a lot of grief over that. So they've moved that to direct messaging or
Right.
even group chat. Group chat can be very dangerous.
Oh yeah,
Right.
I was in a group chat that was very negative, and I felt
Toxic.
bad for one of my friends because he had different political views, and they would just harass the hell out of him.
Right.
It was awful.
That's
and I
the
didn't-
bad side of canceling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the direct messaging is brutal, still is brutal today, right? And I guess one of the things you said was interesting, that people expect you to respond like right away. What is I'm not sure I understand that. Like, I hear what you said loud
Yeah.
and clear, but for some reason I'm struggling to understand why. What is the concept behind that, or is there a concept behind that?
To us, it's like talking to someone directly
Right.
and then ignoring them.
Right.
Like, not like if you're talking to me right now and I just start looking away, I'm not talking to you. Especially if you start texting other people.
Yeah.
Then it's obvious that you're ignoring them. And to me, I think that's perfectly fine. You have the right not to respond to someone, but
Right.
then the other person just gets angry, and that's really common within my generation. And I
Right.
think that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So what is there anything that you would add to this conversation that we've just had about bullying, cyberbullying? Is there anything that comes to mind that we haven't touched on that you want to get out there?
Not particularly. I mean,
Okay.
other than, I guess, just don't try to be as not negative as possible.
That would be positive.
That would be positive. Well, no, there's a difference between not being negative and being positive, in my
Right.
opinion.
But wait, don't two negatives make a positive?
Sure.
So we're there.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfect.
So tell them what you did with the social media accounts you're on.
I deleted them. Well, sort of. I deactivated the accounts and then deleted the app. So
That's a great comment, and that's where I was going to go. That's where I was going to go next. Is like, okay, so what do we do, right? So let's take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, let's talk about what you did and how you overcame and how you're living the awesome life that you're living today. In case you missed it, here's a clip from episode 6, Frank Stidman.
When I have tough days, I remember that perseverance is everything.
It is.
And they say that you could read a library full of books about business and how to succeed in this and that, but that is the number one factor.
So you've listened to Joey. Obviously, you know his story inside and out. You didn't need to hear it to know it. You've lived it. But what else would you add to it? Would you want to add any color to what Joey said from a mom and dad perspective?
Sure. So, just don't be, at least with the mental health part, don't be afraid to ask your children direct questions. Mm-hmm. We're proud of him for coming to us and saying that he needed to see someone. Mm-hmm. And, it's amazing with, we talk about the apps and how the downside of it, but with the technology and getting access to doctors, it's amazing. You can book an appointment right away. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely an emotional time for us. And
right, and I know that because I know Frank, and I remember that conversation like it was yesterday when we were standing out in front of that job site in McLean, and Joey, I can tell you, your dad was he was deeply concerned, right? So
yeah, Joey had walked past us when we were sitting on our couch at the outset of all this before we knew anything was going on, and there was something about the expression on his face, and I turned to my wife and I said, something's up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that comes from experience. I'm mentally ill as well. I suffer from, at times, severe depression.
Right.
And so I understand it on a more visceral level. I also understand the clinical side of it. So there's a lot of people that think depression is just a mood. It is absolutely not. It is clinical. It is chemicals in your brain, problems with serotonin, problems with your gut's ability to make the appropriate chemicals. And
Right.
so the science and pharmaceuticals of it have come a long way, but what Joey and I don't want is this Band-Aid, these pills we take every day. We want to be cured.
Right.
And there's, a lot of things coming along. We can talk about that later. But, it was very difficult. But where we think we were blessed with this is this happened in high school
Right.
while he's under our care and we see him every day
Right.
versus him going to college where a lot of people just flat out lose their kids
Yeah.
because they have no idea they're circling the drain
Right.
and having these problems. And frankly, you have so much less rights as parents once they hit 18, obviously, and go to college. But even in their age, after 13, it becomes very limited what you can know about your kid
Right.
from their caretakers. So if it happens in high school, you can intercept it, but you got to be paying attention.
Well, one of the things you were, Frank, I remember like it was yesterday, because this whole conversation started because I was venting about technology.
Sure.
And you were telling me about how you were having difficulties controlling the technology with Joey, right?
Still do.
Like with your rights over the phone. The phone was in your name.
Correct.
And what kind of rights do you have over that phone?
None.
Talk
that
about
phone is
that.
on my account.
Yeah.
And he went into treatment. We didn't entirely know what was going on. And I went to Apple to get this phone unlocked.
Right.
And they wouldn't do it.
Right. But
I
you
said,
had
"This
his phone.
phone."
You had his phone.
I had his phone.
Yep.
I pay for it. I
Yep.
bought that phone. That account's in my name. Wouldn't
Right.
unlock it.
Right.
And
Amazing.
we didn't know, if there's things we needed to know on there that were life-saving or,
Right.
would have gone to help us. But
And
that
Joey was
speaks to
16 at the time.
Yeah.
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 And so, they absolutely won't do it. And I maybe with a court order, but I've even heard that they will fight the court orders
Right.
on that kind of stuff. So something's, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what to think about all that. As a parent, it ended up okay in spite of that. And, we were talking about how little rights we have as parents to intervene.
Yeah.
That probably comes from other parents abusing it.
Sure.
We're watching a situation somewhat distant to us, but we're watching it where the parents are in the middle of a divorce and there's a control thing going on
Right.
with the kid. That's real bad, and maybe that's what's brought about these. But
Yeah.
that's my phone. I pay for it.
And it's your
my dang
son.
phone, man.
It's your son, right?
Yeah, I think it's because the Apple, so the phone and services in my name, but like maybe you had your own Apple ID.
Well, I think part of the right thing is so the physical phone itself is your property, but the information on the phone is mine.
That's their take on it.
That's
Yeah.
mine too.
Yeah.
So
No, I get it, but we're your guardians, and
Right.
So we ended up telling him while he was under the therapist that
Right.
we were taking the phone.
Right.
We're going to see what was on there. We're wiping it clean,
Right.
getting a new phone number. From there on forward, we have access to that phone.
Right.
So he was aware. And we also went through his contacts.
Right.
And we went to, at least Joey and I went together and said, okay, what about this person? Who are you going to keep on your phone?
Right.
Who's
Right.
a positive?
So
in your life?
at some point, there was a turning point, right? Because it sounds like you guys were at odds with each other for a period of time, or were you never at odds with each other?
It was, I think it was communication.
Mm-hmm.
So Joey had difficulty reaching out
Right.
when he needed the help, and also not being able to communicate the right way
Right.
with each other.
But so obviously he didn't want to share with you
He
the
wasn't
information on
ready.
his phone, right? But then, right, so did you feel there was a conflict at some point?
I'd say so, and it was over the phone, and that's also part of the issue. Like if you're having a conflict like that over information
Right.
with a phone, then that's just kind of messed up.
Right.
I don't know, and that's not anybody's fault. That's just how technology is.
Right. Well, it's also how 16-year-olds are with their parents, right? So it's more that it's just even before phones, I think there was. But it sounds like you guys were all working together from day one. I mean, it doesn't sound like there was a big, conflict within the family.
No.
There was just some tension with regard to information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with
yeah.
that.
I mean, and not towards him. I was resentful towards the technologies and what they've done and the
Right.
manipulation that's occurred. And the more, I think even you had told me about a show called The Social Dilemma. I think it was you that told me.
I don't think it was me.
No, maybe not. But
Yeah.
that's a very good one to watch because they bring the engineers
Right.
that have since left these companies because of what they're doing, and they talk about the algorithms
Yeah.
and how they work to manipulate
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So they see what he's typing.
Right.
I'm his parent. I don't get to see what's on there.
Right.
But the people in Facebook or, I know Facebook's granny stuff now, but social media.
Yes.
When we say Facebook, we mean social media. His
Right.
generation does not use Facebook.
Right.
They look at the comments and then they say, okay, he said such and such and that got a ton of likes or whatever, comments
Yeah.
and this and that, and they start doing things to steer that.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
will manipulate. They will actually give people little windows into what other people are doing in
Yes.
order to incite reactions.
Yes.
And
It's
that's
just
how
like
they make their money.
It's like the reality shows. They
Yeah.
deliberately get different. They have deliberately get different personality types that they
Yes.
know are going to fight because
That's
that
right.
gets ratings.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, the boxer I told you about, who was
Yes.
his coach, was talking to me about that. And he was on a show called The Contender, and he was telling me, hey, look, right off the bat, Mark Burnett, the producer,
Yeah.
comes out and says, I want you guys to know something. This is not about making you look good.
Yeah.
This is about getting ratings and viewers.
Yeah.
And you have the chance right now to leave if you don't understand that. But it is not our job to
Right.
make you look good.
Yeah.
With them, it's their job to do whatever they're going to do to get clicks out of these kids.
Yep. Exactly.
And then they sell that to advertise. They sell data like crazy and things like that. So we drive that by being engaged
Yes.
on those. If we do what he did and we eliminate those apps, that's our vote.
Right. So Lynn.
Yeah, but on the flip side, with some of the apps, like the last time, if we didn't have the GPS app that we
Right.
had, we would never. I don't know if we would have found them.
Sure, and I'm not picking on apps.
No,
I'm picking
I
on
know.
social media.
Yeah.
Social media, but just in technology altogether, you
Yeah.
know,
There's
There's
some
good
good.
and
you
bad.
have your good
Yep.
and you have your
Right.
bad, and then the other good is like there's an app that I found. It's called Not Okay. It's a free app, and it allows everyone, kids, teens, adults. All you have to do is press it, and it sends messages to certain people saying, "I'm not okay. Come find me. Come
Right.
call me. Come."
Right.
That way
That's
they don't
amazing.
have to call
Speak.
someone and tell them.
Right.
All they have to do is press that button.
That's amazing.
Joey did not use that resource, but fortunately
was there.
it is there.
And sometimes just knowing it's there is all you need, I would think.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
opens up the door
Yeah.
for someone.
Yeah. So, how did you guys turn the corner? So, what is the solution? There's no obviously one solution, right? So, what I do want to just say before we kind of move on, the one thing that you, Lynn, and I were talking about before we started was the stigmatism around going to seek mental health. Do you guys want to talk about that? Because I don't really understand it. I think that I think we all use coaches. We talked about your guitar teacher. Frank, you've talked about the boxing coach. Everybody has coaches. I don't get it either, right? We all agree that if you're having a bad day, or if you're struggling with depression, or if you're having a bad relationship, or if you have a medical issue that you're trying to get over with and you need to go see a mental coach, I don't get what the big deal is. But what's your
What's my take?
yeah,
on
what's
it?
your take on that?
I go to a therapist myself. I deal with anxiety. I think that some people personally think it's a pride thing,
Right.
possibly.
Right.
I also, when I have shared my story, our family's story, it's
Right.
amazing how many people were supportive. But then it was amazing how people were like, oh, just have him, just take the phone away.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, the phone could be a lifesaver
Exactly.
for him.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the mentality of the person
Yeah.
individually. That's why I think talking about our story and just being able to get it out there opens up a door, the
Absolutely.
awareness.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
It can be culturally based too.
Yeah.
Well,
But
and depending
Virginia-
on the day
Can-
you hit me, Frank, I could be the guy that would just say, just take the phone away, right? I could,
Yeah.
I mean, and I wouldn't really mean it if I hadn't thought about it, right? So I could see how people would say it seems like a pretty easy solution.
Well, but it doesn't address the clinical aspect of it.
Right.
So remember, depression has a clinical
Yes.
aspect, which is your brain chemicals.
Yep.
And then there's the
Symptoms.
my girlfriend dumped me. I'm depressed for a week.
Right.
That is situational depression, and
Right.
maybe taking a phone away from that might help because
Yeah.
you're not seeing the message. But taking the phone away won't necessarily
yeah.
change the chemicals, the longer term
Right.
fix. I mean, there's good things that it can do, but the Virginia Tech shooting, where I think, what did he take out 31 people?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that young man had been showing symptoms of mental illness for a while, but
Right.
his family's culture, going all the way back to Korea,
Yes.
was do not talk about mental health,
right. And
Get
that's,
over it.
That's never good.
and it would have very likely prevented what happened there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly happen. At least there
Yeah.
would have been some intervention, but that stigma existed because thousands of years in that culture, mental illness isn't a real thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it's getting worse in society.
Absolutely.
Something's
Yeah.
really going on here.
Yeah.
And
Well, I would definitely agree with that, Frank. I mean, I would say I don't think we really understand what the impact of the internet is, and I
Agreed.
don't think we're going to know for another few decades.
We're always on.
unfortunately. Yeah,
we're
yeah,
always
yeah,
on.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
always dealing with
Definitely.
information.
Tougher on this generation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, Joey, how did you get out of this?
How did I get out of this?
Yes, because that's what we want to hear. We
Right.
want to hear, how did you pull yourself out of this? And so one of the things that I think you did was you were running. Why? So tell us why you were running. What got you into running?
What got me into running? I've always been good at it. I've always
Yeah.
had a good stamina. I mean, I didn't have amazing stamina.
But you had a reason why you
Yeah.
started. You were running, right?
Well, I mean, I ran track and cross country in high school, and I
Right.
started off being like the second worst of the team, and then I ended up being the top runner for a while. But then it got worse. Actually, track simultaneously saved my life and made it worse because I was running 6 days a week and volunteering on the 7th. It was
Yeah.
literally my entire life. You can, there's kind of a joke. You can choose between these three things: good grades, a sport / job, and then a social life. You can choose two of those.
Right.
In high school, you can't
Right.
have three. It's impossible. And I just didn't have. I didn't have a life. It was school, running, sleep, eat, sleep, and then repeat.
right. And that was post depression or pre-depression?
Pre-depression.
Okay.
And then it didn't help that some of those people, the bad people,
Yeah.
were on the team.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's
gotcha.
actually why I had to leave. That's mostly why I had to leave the team. Also,
Right.
my coach was very rough on us physically because I mean my knee got injured and I just couldn't physically run anymore. It hurt too bad.
They pushed him to run anyway.
Yeah.
Old school coaching.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad, but they meant well, and that's what I mean by trying to see the positive. Like my coach did not mean to hurt me. He
Right.
was just trying to help me by improving my times, and I understand that I'm not mad at him. I was for a time because I was being irrational, but
Right.
I mean, you gotta try and see the positive in that. But anyways, running in freshman year saved my life because I was not feeling good, but
Right.
because I was running every day, that was my medicine. That was my medication that I'm taking now, essentially, because it was helping me mentally, and then it also was hurting me mentally. So I wasn't happy, but at least I was alive.
Right.
I was alive for the time being. And then sophomore year came, I wasn't running as competitively. I was getting worse. And I went for a run to go jump off a building, and on the run, I ended up feeling better, and I ran around 10 miles, almost a half marathon. I just kept running, and then I ran home and then acted like nothing happened. And then the next week I went to the mental hospital.
So that run, you had an epiphany, and
Yeah, I wouldn't say epiphany. I just felt better.
And time to talk.
Right.
Time to get help.
Yeah.
Those
There's
endorphins.
Yeah.
there's a physical pain that comes with it, and
Yeah.
for me it's in my just gut, and I
Right.
couldn't deal with that. I felt like I was getting stabbed and slammed by a friggin' hammer
Right.
in my stomach every 3 seconds, and it was just awful. And then I felt
So what was
horrible.
causing that? I mean, was that the depression that was causing that
Depression,
pain?
yeah,
And then did
and
the
it's
running
social.
make it go away, or did the running
Yes.
the running made it go away?
Yes.
Okay.
And then also my thoughts. I mean, the thought process. I was just like, life isn't worth it. It's too much pain. I'm sorry. I have to.
Get help.
I will end it. That was my first
Okay.
reaction, and then I got help later.
Wonderful.
Finally.
Well, we're glad you did.
Me too.
So tell us, how are you now dealing? I guess how are you dealing with life today? What is your secret sauce for you? Right. So you know how to make a great cup of coffee.
Right.
So
I mean, that does help. Caffeine does help. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, but I guess, I mean, I keep coming back to this, but positivity and not being negative. I mean, if I just try to see the best in people, I try to help as many people as possible, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And if I can help, every time I help someone, I have friends that also struggle. I wouldn't say I'm their therapist, but I'm their go-to friend to help them get through whatever they're going through, and I think I'm doing a good job with that.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
And
Yeah.
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, they
That's
seem
awesome.
to be doing well, and that just makes me feel better. And doing what you can to help other people always makes you feel good,
Absolutely.
and that
Absolutely.
will always be a positive
Yeah.
influence on anyone.
That is absolutely true. The more you give, the more you get. The more you help people, the more you're feeding your soul, for sure.
Right.
Like what you're hearing on the Go With John show? Please share it with your friends. They can sign up at gowithjohn.com. So what do you think about technology? Do you have, we chatted a little bit about this offline. How do you take any measures to meter the amount of exposure you have to social media? Do you play video games on
Yes.
your phone?
Oh, not on my phone. Not on my phone.
I mean, so are
Not
you a
on my
video gamer? Do you video game?
Oh,
'Cause I
a
never-
little too much for it to be okay, but it's COVID. So
Yeah. So what is a little too much for it to be okay?
like 4 hours a day.
Oh, dude, that's crazy.
To be fair, I do make money off it.
Nick, our engineer is over here shaking it off. I know Nick's a video gamer, so
He knows, he
yeah,
knows.
yeah.
Well, where we've innately, I would like to throttle that. However, with COVID, he has very little
Yeah.
social interaction with people, and his friends are online with him playing.
Right. No,
That's where I get all
totally
my
get it.
socialization.
When the COVID's over and we can get back to socialization,
When I
then
can
I'm
go
expecting
outside.
different things. But for now, we understand that there's some positive aspect to it.
Absolutely.
It is interactive.
Yeah,
it is
because
good
it's
for
not
his
just
brain.
the game; it's the
He's-
other kids
he's
that
sitting
are
there doing this for 4 hours.
Right.
I got a real problem with that.
Yeah.
But the video games,
They're talking.
Yeah.
where
So-
the video games become a problem is when he's up too late and not getting the appropriate.
Yeah, and
amount
I've
of
been
sleep.
getting better about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So-
So are you taking measures to meter the amount of exposure you have to social media?
I did delete Instagram. I'd never been on Facebook. I deleted Snapchat. I think I intend to. If I didn't, I don't know. I deleted everything. The only thing I'm on is Twitter and Reddit, and those I'm not actually on. It's just a dead account to browse, and that's a little
Sure.
bit different. As long as you're not,
Interacting.
as long as you're not really interacting, I think it's fine.
So what kind of measures are you taking on the electronic side
This
to control or manage your personal situation?
I would say this beautiful button called Do Not Disturb. That helps a lot. I mean, the only interaction I have with people is through text. And if I just click that one button, then my phone is no longer, I don't interact
Active.
with people. It's
Right.
not active. I mean, people can text me, but I don't see it. And that's
Yeah.
great because with guitar, I use it for backing tracks.
Yeah.
With photography, and I use it for editing and on the spot, and then just to also take other photos because
Yeah.
it's difficult to carry a whole camera around, and that's why photography, the photography industry is dying because of phones. The phone
Right.
cameras are getting so good that you don't need an actual camera, and anyone can take a picture now.
Right.
And that's the problem because now I can't really it's difficult to make money off that, and then with running, I need it for music. Phones themselves are not necessarily a bad thing. Anything to, as long as you're moderating things, anything is fine.
Yeah. So, but you make a good point, because I didn't even think about that, is you've got your phone with you all the time. You're using it for photography. You're using it for music. You're using it to play music. So it's always there. So if anybody texts you, you're just like there. And that do not disturb button is really your probably most valuable tool, it sounds like.
It's on 70% of the time.
That's
I'm
amazing.
awful at answering texts, and that's kind of on purpose.
Yeah. But then I think people begin to understand that about you, and then they can't get upset when you don't respond within 15 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
now
You're in control.
I see texts, and then I just kind of like, I don't really feel like responding right now. I'll respond later. And that's what people in my generation get mad about.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it funny that they still call it a phone? This generation doesn't call anybody.
Yeah.
It's
all text or
99%
FaceTime.
texting,
Yeah.
and we still call it a phone. I mean,
Yeah. It's a handheld computer.
Handheld
they
computer.
don't do email either.
Yeah. I think they're migrating to device now. I think they're calling them the device.
Yeah, that's a very good
That's
point.
true.
Device. Yeah.
But yeah,
But-
the email is, they're saying that's dead as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
I mean, you still need an email address, but
Sure.
we don't communicate with each other through email unless it's
Yeah.
professional. And
Right.
in reality, like nobody through. Even then, I text my chiropractor. I text
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
text them for.
Yeah, everything's text and IM.
Yeah, and that's honestly that's kind of nice because I don't like calling people on the phone. I'm fine with FaceTime. I can't talk to people in person without
wait.
seeing their face.
Without seeing their face. Because I get confused, because you like at the drive-through at your coffee shop where you work, you like to be the order taker because you get to talk to people, but then I guess you get to see them face to face when they get their order.
Yeah, and that's when I have the real interactions. It's pretty fun. I have funny interactions over the speaker, and I have like interesting and good interactions with people on the window.
Right.
Like I had a conversation with someone for 2 minutes about running yesterday.
Yeah.
It was just
Nice.
super random. It was great. And
Yeah.
then I got a $5 tip.
And you know, go ahead, Lynn.
No, I just think that I hear him play his guitar, in between classes. So
Yeah.
that is a good way of disconnecting. And then his job, because he can't have his phone with
Yeah.
him. And just like
I do
you
listen to
guys-
music though, depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you can't be doing it right in front of customers. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a good way of disconnecting from the technology, even
Yeah.
if it's just for an hour or so.
Well, the pandemic has immersed them so heavily in technology, they're almost sick of it, right?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Like
we
virtual.
hate
Zoom
online
class.
school.
Yeah.
Most of us do. All of us are. I know very few people that are not doing hybrid, which is 2 days in, 2 days out, and
Yeah.
even then, the people who aren't doing it are just scared.
Yeah.
Or they have people who are super at risk.
Right.
You have
right.
an option in Fairfax County
Yeah.
to stay at home the rest of the year or do,
Hybrid.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. We're doing hybrid in our
Yeah.
house, so I get it. You know, the really cool thing about all this is, and you get it, Joey, is that people are cool. People, I mean, it's really amazing when you get out and just mix it up with people. It's how I got to know your dad. This is the second time I'm meeting you, Lynn, and everybody's got a story. Every single person you meet has a story. Every single person you meet has a struggle. Every single one of them. You can meet the most put together person that you think has everything neatly lined up and their life is perfect. And when you start scratching the surface and you sit down and start having a real honest chat with somebody, or you start to get to know somebody, you always learn they've got some kind of a health condition, or they have a mental condition, or they have difficulties with family members. You know, it is, and it's not, and there's a lot of really cool, fun things about people too. Like you met mostly cool, fun things about people,
Mostly.
right? I'm not painting a dark picture here, but you know, one of the most fun days I had right before COVID, I took a trip, and I wanted to go see my two first bass teachers, who both lived in New Jersey. And one of them owns a coffee shop in one part of New Jersey, and the other one is in, I think it's called Spring Lake, New Jersey, south of New York. So put the family in the car, we did a road trip, and we had a bunch of people we just wanted to go see that I hadn't seen in forever. And we go and we stop in to the first guy, and we chat with him, and we have lunch at his cafe, and then we go to the second place where we check into a hotel, and we checked in to the hotel, and we had like 3 or 4 hours before we were going to meet John Perry, who was my longest Swiss-based teacher I had, and he's going to eventually be on the show here. Cool. I want to get his story and talk to him. But we had some time. We were in the hotel, and my one son, Nicholas, was doing something. My wife was in the shower, so I told my other son, Alexander, I said, let's go out and let's go mix it up with the folks, and let's go see what we run into. So we go out, and we're at Asbury Park, and we go down, and we're walking on the pier, and there's a news crew set up, right? And you can see they've got the lights and the cameras. And so I go, let's just see what this is all about. So we're hanging out, and we start asking people around what's going on, who's coming. And they say, oh, Governor Murphy's going to be here, and he's going to be interviewed about blah, 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 whatever. So we're just kind of standing there. And then Governor Murphy pulls up, and he gets out of his car, and he comes walking over, and he walks straight over to Alexander, my son, and starts talking to him. And I'm immediately thinking to myself, this guy thinks I'm a New Jersey voter, right? So, but it was really just a cool random experience, right? And I think that is a really big part of why I want to do this podcast, is because there's so many incredibly interesting people out there, and it's so easy to go out and mix it up with folks and learn interesting things, but it does take time, and we all get busy, and we all get in the grind, and we all get moving, and it all falls by the wayside. So it's really great to hear your story. I love that you get it, you know, and I love that you are working hard to make your life the best that you can make it. And I love that you're working at a coffee shop and you can chat it up with folks. And I can guarantee you keep doing that, you're going to end up doing something with your passion, right? And if you love talking to people and mixing it up with folks, and you like to be a little bit mischievous with it as well.
Absolutely. I would say a little bit.
Yeah. You like to mess with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's a youngster thing. I think when we were all youngsters, we enjoyed that. Now I realize that everybody has a struggle, no matter who they are. And I don't mess with anybody anymore. But do you have a funny story you want to close out with about a safe, funny story?
A safe, funny story.
About how you messed with somebody in a good way or a fun way?
I did mess with my entire school.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. That was pretty funny.
I'm getting the green light from mom and dad on this.
I needed to make sure.
Yeah, so did I.
So I got this idea to make a bunch of posters that looked official, saying that there was a mandatory drug test throughout and for my school, and I put 30 all over the school.
Right.
And everyone on social media started freaking out because my let's just say my school is not. Despite the posters, we're not very drug free.
Right.
It's a high school.
It's a high school. What do you expect? 50% of the kids would have failed that.
Yeah.
And they all started freaking out, and there was it was a very ridiculous poster. I don't think I can repeat some of the things on there, but if you kept reading, it was obvious that it was fake. But at the first paragraph, looked very real.
Right.
And I thought it would take like a day for me to get caught. It took 1 hour.
Oh wow.
Because I didn't know that they monitor the cameras 24/7.
Right.
And I went into the office, and then I talked my way out of suspension.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. His principal lives 4 doors down.
Yeah. So that was, she wasn't involved directly that I know of.
With you talking yourself out of the suspension, you mean?
Yeah, I talked to my assistant principal who already liked me from before, and then I just was like, I had no malintent. I just wanted to do something funny because I was bored.
Right.
Honestly, I was bored. I wanted to change things up, do something funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Made my day.
And she called me. I got the phone call.
Yeah.
And she was laughing, but she's like, there has to be consequences. I'm like, of course.
I got 2 community service hours. That's it. I'm
Right.
not complaining.
Yeah. Well, for a lot of people, that's not even consequences, right? Because for a lot of folks, they do community service anyway.
Well, I had to help the janitors, which wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't complaining.
Yeah.
I still have an hour.
I was going to say, the future of good communication is this. It's the podcasts.
Right.
Because you don't meet real people on Facebook. You meet their avatar. You meet what they want you to believe about them. Here's my perfect family. Here's, this is where you get long format to the root of things.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
They are saying podcasts are more popular now than ever.
Yep.
And it takes off. For me, I don't even know why radio exists anymore. I mean, podcasts are so good. That's what I do when I'm driving. I love driving now because of podcasts. So this is it. This is how you're going to get to the bottom of things.
Well, it's
this
awesome.
is where the real news is going to come from.
Yep.
Our media has failed us. It's turned into some other animal.
Yeah, it's true. It's a weird time, and that's why I say we don't even know where it's all going. Right? We're not going to know for decades.
It's going to be
this
long
is a big
format,
part of it.
not headlines, not manipulated news. It's going to be the person telling their whole story.
The real deal.
Yep.
Well, so here we are with the real deal with Joey, Lynn, and Frank, and thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed
Thank
hearing
you.
your story. And if we can help one person and give one person light, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
That's exactly
Yeah,
it.
and if you do ask for help and you don't get it, ask again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Somebody else.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's hard at first, but anyone can get help, I believe.
Yeah.
He has the right tools for life now.
That's awesome.
Exactly. And if anything, I'm glad all that happened because now I'm in a great place. And while that was painful for half a year, I'm in a great place now. And like my dad said, I have all the tools to live a good life now.
You're lucky because it could have gone on for a lot longer,
Right.
and it could have.
I'm very
ended
lucky.
in
I'm
a
very
different
lucky
way.
and very
Yeah.
grateful. I understand my situation
Wonderful.
completely.
Well, thanks again, Joey, for telling your
Thank
story.
you for having me on.
You got it. If you or someone you know is struggling with depression, don't wait until it's too late. Learn from Joey's story and reach out to someone. Disconnect every once in a while and stay positive and love your life. This is John Jorgensen, and thanks for listening.